is Bob Hope speaking from a P-38 airfield out here near Van Nuys, California. What's happened during these last few hours, not one of us will ever forget. How could you forget? You sat up all night by the radio and heard the bulletins, the flashes, the voices coming across from England, the commentators, the pilots returning from their greatest of all missions, newsboys yelling in the street, and it seemed that one world was ending and a new world beginning. You sat there and dawn began to sneak in, and you thought of the hundreds of thousands of kids you'd seen in camps the past 2 or 3 years. And now you could see all of them again in 4,000 ships on the English Channel, tumbling out of thousands of planes over Normandy and the occupied coast. God bless those kids across the English Channel.
Navy opens Pacific offensive. Corregidor beats off Japs.
3 days past, fighting raged down in the Pacific. Every day the headlines screamed out news of the heroic battles. Names like Midway Island, Guadalcanal, Kwajalein, they became household words. We all hoped and prayed that the war would soon be over. But that wasn't to be. It ground on. I continued to travel all over the States to as many military bases as I could. We did our radio show from a different one each week.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob, Topeka Army Airfield Hope. This is Bob broadcasting from Fort McPherson in Georgia, Hope, telling you soldiers here in the South to scrub those teeth with Pepsodent and never quit relaxing, and you can always handle that Army food because your teeth will have stone walls, Jackson. This is Bob, Quonset Point Naval Air Station, Quonset Point, Rhode Island, Hope. That's a nice half-hour show by itself, isn't it?
In the meantime, I was getting bags of mail from guys out in the Pacific saying, "Don't forget us." How could we forget them? Got a call from the Department of Defense. They said, "Pack, they need you in the Pacific." I called Francis, Tony Romano, and Jerry Colonna, and I asked this charming young dancer, Patty Thomas, my writer, Barney Dean, to join us. I told them, "Pick up your laundry. We're heading out to the South Pacific." An invitation they couldn't refuse. So we packed our bags, and our little band of gypsies just said goodbye. Our first stop was Hawaii. We received quite a welcome. The brass took us over to the Jungle Combat Training Center. We got some hands-on experience. I guess they'd seen our act and they knew we needed protection.
Are we winning?
We stayed in Honolulu several days, breaking in the show and getting ready for what was ahead.
I started, you thought I was lousy, huh?
Meat, conchita, marquita, bandita, pepe, Rita, Juanita, Tata.
Then the grueling part of the trip began. Christmas Island, Tarawa, Kwajalein, Eniwetok. Eniwetok had been the scene of a very bloody battle, but our guys had won. Worst part about winning was you have to stay there in this malaria-ridden, rat-infested island. I remember when I saw the place, I said to them, "So this is Eniwetok, huh? What an island. What are we defending this place for? Let them take it. It'll serve them right." No women anywhere. My writer, Hal Canner, who was stationed there, said the guys got crazy just seeing 2 coconuts together. Imagine our reception when we arrived with Francis and Patty. It felt good to bring music and laughs and girls to places like that.
Wonderful to be here, isn't it, huh? You having a good time in this trip?
Yes, it's really exciting.
It
The
is.
boys have been so wonderful to us.
They have.
You know that last island we were on?
Yes.
One of the boys took me out on the target range.
No, really? Is that right?
He put his arm around me and showed me how to hold a rifle.
No kidding. I didn't know that. Oh, what do you mean?
And he kept his arm around me and he showed me how to aim it.
Oh, he did? Huh?
And he kept his arm around me for half an hour and showed me exactly how to fire.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and then an officer came along to put him in the guardhouse.
Oh. Well, that was too bad.
Yes, we were going to try it again tomorrow with a rifle.
Every time I got a swell head and all the applause, Barney Dean would remind me it didn't any great thing to be more popular than jungle rock. I got it on my feet, and Francis got it in her ear. Our troops were battling their way, island by island, closer to Japan for the final assault. We island hopped all over the Pacific. We tried to entertain as many of our guys and our gals as we could.
From somewhere in the South Pacific, we present the Bob Hope Show. Thank you. How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob Mosquito Network Hope. Thanking you boys from Guam, Tinian, and Span for making the Japs take it on the lam. Yes, sir. Isn't it wonderful what you can do on Spam, huh? But I really hope you enjoy our show today. We have a nice show here with Francis Langford, Jerry Colonna, Tony Romano, Patty Thomas, and Barney Dean. I know you'll enjoy the girls. You remember girls? Yes, sir. They're doing very fine. Some of these islands we visited, these girls have been the first to land. Won't Eleanor be mad, huh?
The islands we visited seemed to get smaller and smaller, and the Japanese kept getting closer and closer. We did a show at a place called Numfor, where they based the Black Widow night fighters, and a fella came in with a communique and handed it to the general. It read, "They killed a Jap 200 yards from the stage during the show." And I asked, was he coming or going?
Look at that jungle. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Look at that.
Careful, careful.
Huh?
Snipers.
We were on an island called Banica, and the commander told us that a bunch of Marines had been training on an island called Pavuvu. They were getting ready to invade another island called Peleliu. They said that Peleliu was one of the most dangerous Japanese possessions on the way to Tokyo. We all climbed into Piper Cubs and flew out over the Pacific. When we finally located Pavuvu, we buzzed the baseball field and found 15,000 Marines waiting for us. They cheered each plane. You could just feel the plane rise with that applause. The island had no runway. You had to land on a road. In almost 6 months of training, our Marines on Pavuvu had never had any entertainment. We gave them a great show. Of the 15,000 kids who cheered us in Pavuvu, 40% never got home. Some months later, I was going through a hospital in Oakland, California, doing my regular comedy routine, and this patient, covered with bandages, stuck his hand out and said, "Pavuvu." I greeted him, and then I found out that the whole ward was filled with guys from Pavuvu. At one end of the room, the nurse were attending to a guy who was just coming out of an operation. He opened his eyes and he said, "Bob Hope, when did you get here?" I couldn't handle that. I had to walk away. That was one of the toughest moments in my life. One of the next places we visited was a small island near New Guinea called Nios Wendy. The sailors who lived there called it Wendy Island. As usual, Patty and Francis were a big hit. The Navy couldn't do enough for them. I went along on a PT boat ride as a chaperone. I think the girls were worried about their hair blowing. Hairdressers were hard to find there. A little later, we did our show in a pouring rain. And then we were off again. Pretty routine, but life is full of surprises. Almost 20 years later, in 1963, I had the thrill of being presented the Congressional Gold Medal by President John F. Kennedy.
It's been one of the rarest honors given to Americans, and it's a great pleasure for me, on behalf of the Congress, to present this to you. Got a splendid picture of you. I hope everyone had a chance to look at it and present it to you on behalf of the people of the United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That's very nice. I suggested to Senator Symington that I should have had a nose job.
Yeah. But he said there would have been less gold, so...
But I actually don't like to tell jokes about a thing like this because it's one of the nicest things that's ever happened to me, and I feel very humble. After he gave me the medal, he said, "You know, Bob, I sat in the rain on Wendy Island and watched your show." You can't imagine what a thrill I got realizing that as a young lieutenant, President Kennedy was part of our audience. Yes, we were off to Australia. We did some shows there. How about those legs? While we were flying from Brisbane to Sydney in a Navy Catalina flying boat, I had the bright idea that it would be a kick to fly the plane. I'd wait until everyone else in our group was asleep, and then I begged our Navy pilot to let me do the driving. He was a little dubious about turning over the controls to a civilian. I bribed him and said I would introduce him to Francis. The plane found out who was flying it, and the left engine conked out. The pilot came racing into the cockpit and said, "Get out of there." He spotted a small lake, and on one engine, he brought that plane down on that water. And we all tried as it lurched to a stop. We crawled out on the wing and shouted with relief. We were starting to sink when we saw a small boat coming out from the shore. And Ozzie was rowing the boat. When he saw us hanging out of the wing, he yelled, "Say there, you American chaps have any cigarettes?" And the pilot told us later if we'd hit that sandbar first, the plane would have exploded. One of our last stops was a place called Hollandia. It was in New Guinea. The Japanese had invaded it first, but now it was in our hands. Our troops were pushing forward all over New Guinea, but the Japanese were there pushing back. We didn't know what we were going to meet when we hit the beach there. We were in for a big surprise. 20,000 troops were waiting for us. It was one of the biggest audiences we had ever faced in a war zone. I kept wondering who was watching the store. I said, "I'm happy to be here. What part of Miami is this? I don't know how we're going to get home from here. 2 mosquitoes ate our chopper." What the guys loved most, though, were the girls. Francis's songs and Patty's dancing had them standing on their feet cheering. Maybe they just wanted to get a better look.
I just want you boys to see what you're fighting for, that's all.
We did the second show that night for about 5,000 Seabees. You know, the guys in the construction site. It was a romantic setting. Palm trees, blue lagoon, and Francis sang, "I'm in the mood for love."
I'm in the mood for love, simply because you're near me. Funny, but when you're near me, I'm in the mood for love.
And one guy stood up and said, "You came to the right place, honey." That's the biggest laugh I ever heard.
Anybody care for an autograph? Autograph, autograph, autograph.
There we are. Come and get us.
Autograph. Try the other end of the beach. We'll find somebody.
I guess so.
We did all our island hopping during the summer of '44.
Iwo Jima invaded by Marines.
Shortly after we left, the war in the Pacific really heated up again. Our Navy engaged in fierce battles in the Philippine Sea.
Jap armada smashed.
General MacArthur and many of the guys we entertained fought valiantly to rescue the Philippines from the Japanese.
MacArthur seizes Leyte capital.
The Battle of the Leyte Gulf turned out to be the pivotal battle of the Pacific Campaign. Images of heroism emerged daily, like the unforgettable picture of the Marines raising the flag on Iwo Jima. The U.S. scored an important victory when they took over Okinawa. It was a strategic island on Japan's doorstep.
Tokyo bombed.
Meanwhile, in Europe, our troops won battle after battle. And finally, on May 8, 1945, the Germans signed a surrender in Berlin.
Victory in Europe.
About 3 months later, the Japanese surrendered unconditionally. On September the 2nd, 1945, they signed a formal surrender aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay.
Peace.
At last, the long war was over. All of America celebrated. There were parades. Loved ones ran into each other's arms. Fathers saw children for the first time. And all of America wept for those who would never return. No one was untouched by this war. All of us were left with memories. These are mine.